So thanks everyone for being here and welcome to the CHRS Absence Management Faculty Absence and No Leave Taken Training. My name is Camille Johnson from IT Training and I'll be facilitating the session this evening. In this session, we'll be going over how to report your absences using the CHRS employee homepage. Here's the agenda for today's class. We'll start by going over what training resources are at your disposal. Then we'll talk about the deadlines for reporting absences, dock time, and no leave taken. Next, we'll talk about the CHRS employee ID, and then we'll proceed to a demonstration of how to access CHRS, how to submit absences such as sick leave, submitting dock time, and submitting no leave taken. And then at the end, we'll have time for any questions. On this slide are training resources for absence management. IT Training can assist you with how-to questions about accessing and using CHRS, but if you have more specific questions, such as which absence type you should use for a particular absence, you should reach out, first of all, to your department timekeeper for guidance. And usually your department timekeeper is the administrative support coordinator or the administrative analyst within your academic department. If you have multiple people in your office, then you can consult with your department chair and they should know who the timekeeper is. If your timekeeper is not available to assist you, or if it's beyond their scope of knowledge, you can reach out to the absence management team in HR. If you have questions about the faculty reporting requirements for absences or no leave taken, you can contact the campus CHRS team. And on the PeopleSoft knowledge base, you'll find user guides and videos for absence entry and no leave taken, as well as all of our other CHRS guides. Listed here are the deadlines for submitting your sick leave or no leave taken for the spring 2024 semester. Generally, your deadline will be the last day of each month, but keep in mind that January and February are combined into one pay period. So as we can see here, the February pay period begins January 16th, the beginning of the semester, and then ends February 29th. As for the rest of the months, they're pretty straightforward. They end at the end of the month. You can report sick leave at any time during the month. You do not necessarily need to wait until the end of the month to report your sick leave. But of course, for no leave taken, it's advisable to wait until the last day of the month or your last day of work for the month. The ongoing list of pay period dates can be found on the Payroll Pay Calendars webpage. So on the presentation, there's a link to that webpage in the top right. And do remember that academic year classifications report absences only during the fall and spring semesters. So you will need to refer to the academic pay calendar. Faculty who are in 12-month classifications, some department chairs are like this, will need to report absences year-round, including summer and winter breaks. So the 12-month classification folks will want to look at the main attendance and pay schedule. We'll go over docs in more detail later in this training, but docs must be reported by the 17th of the month. Any docs that occur after the 17th should be reported directly to the department timekeeper and payroll services each day. Now we'll go into the employee ID in CHRS. CHRS, or the Common Human Resources System, is a system that will eventually be shared by all CSU campuses, so it was necessary to create new employee IDs for all CSU employees to make sure that there wasn't a conflict between the employee's ID in CHRS and the employee's campus ID. So anytime you see something labeled ID or EMPL ID in CHRS, it is referring to this CHRS specific ID number. It is not the same as your campus-wide ID, and it's not replacing your CWID. You might be asked to provide your CHRS ID on some HR forms, or your timekeeper or HR staff might ask for it because it makes it a lot easier for them to look up your information in CHRS if they have that ID available. You can find your CHRS ID in a few places in CHRS. but the most convenient place to look is probably on the No Leave Taken page. And that is our example here. So you can see the ID in the top corner. It's that number that starts with 1. All right, so now we can go into our demonstration. So to access CHRS, you'll log into the campus portal and then select the Employee Homepage button in the Titan Online widget. So on my portal, I have it set up so I have the Employee Homepage tile up here for easy access. But I scroll down a little bit to the Titan Online widget, and I also have the Employee Homepage down here. So CHRS is hosted by the Chancellor's Office, so eventually all CSU campuses will be using this platform. And because it is hosted by the Chancellor's Office, you may encounter this CSU login page. All you have to do is select Fullerton as the campus from the drop-down menu, and then click Login. So this is what the employee homepage looks like. It's also known as Employee Self-Service. To access absence and no leave taken options, click on the CSU time navigation tile. Depending on your access and your screen resolution, this tile might jump around a bit on your screen. So for instance, when I minimize it, it jumps up here next to open enrollment. Now it's down here, but the label will remain consistent. So just click on CSU time. And once you do that, it is going to land by default on the timesheet. Please do not use the timesheet for absences or no leave taken. The timesheet is where hourly employees, like student employees, enter their time worked. You shouldn't be entering your time worked on the timesheet unless specifically instructed to do so. For each month, you will be entering either no leave taken, if you do not have any absences that month, or if you do have absences, you will put them in through the request absence page. We'll talk about no leave taken a little later on, but now let's delve into request absence, which is where you will go to enter absences or dock time. So absences in CHRS are treated like requests because you can enter them ahead of time. So for example, if I know I'll be out of the office on February 29th, I could enter that absence now. You can also add absences retroactively, such as sick time, because you don't typically plan your sick days. For folks with multiple positions on campus, the first thing you'll want to do is select the correct position from the job title drop-down menu. Department chairs will probably have a chair appointment in addition to an instructional faculty appointment. We do have some staff members that teach part-time, so they would see their staff appointment and their faculty appointment. This menu shows you the job title and department name, so it should be fairly easy to figure out which one you want. But if you have very similar appointments and you're not sure which one to pick, you can consult with your timekeeper. In my example here, we have a person who teaches for the biology department and the chemistry department. To demonstrate, I'm going to use the chemistry appointment. The next thing you'll want to do is select the absence type from the absence name menu. You'll only see the absence types that you're eligible for, so you may see more or less than what's featured here. In this example, I'm going to choose sick leave. Some absence types, such as sick leave, will have you select a reason for the absence. So you would select a reason from this drop-down menu. I'll go with personal sick time. And then next, you'll select the begin date for the absence. This usually defaults to the current date, but you can change that by clicking on the calendar icon next to that field. And then you can search for and select the appropriate date here. In this example, I will use January 18th as the first day of my absence. By default, the system sets the end date to be the same as the begin date. If you're only out for one day, that's fine, and you can leave the end date as is. But if you were out for multiple days in a row, you'll want to click that calendar icon again to select the date, the end date of your absence. So for this example, I was out for 2 days. So I will select January 19th as the end date. So let's say I was going to be out again on January 22nd. I would submit this absence for the 18th and the 19th, and then submit another one for the 22nd and onward. Typically, you don't want to include non-working days, such as weekends and holidays in your absence, because if you're not scheduled to work on a particular day, you can't be considered absent if you don't show up for work that day. So in this example, if I'm not scheduled to work on Saturdays and Sundays, there would be no need for me to include that in my absence. So selecting the dates updates the duration value here. Keep in mind that the system generally views a day as 8 hours and calculates accordingly. For full-time faculty, that is usually the correct duration. But if you are a part-time faculty, you'll need to click partial days in order to enter in the correct duration. Please note that you will have to click partial days. If you try to manually type the number in here or use these little arrows, it's not going to work. So click on partial days. This new window will open. And then you can select all days from this drop-down menu so that the hours you enter will be applied to each day of your absence. So in order to calculate the appropriate duration, you need to multiply your FTE by 8 hours. In this example, I'm going to pretend that this person's FTE is 0.20. If I multiply 0.20 by 8, then I get 1.6 hours. If you're not sure what your FTE is, you can reach out to your department coordinator for assistance. And then click Done. And now you can see that the system has calculated 1.6 times 2. So the duration is 3.2 hours for this 2-day absence. Next, you'll click Forecast to have the system check if you have enough leave credits to cover the absence. You will need to click Forecast before submitting an absence. The system will then tell you if you have enough leave credits to cover the absence. So here we see successfully forecasted. You have enough balance to cover this absence request. You can click OK out of that. And if the forecast tells you that you do not have sufficient leave credits to cover the absence, then you'll need to report dock time, which we'll discuss a little bit later. Below the forecast button are some optional fields. You can enter additional information in the comments box. There's also a spot for attachments if you want to attach any files to the absence. So generally, you would only add attachments for jury service certificates. So if you're taking sick days, for example, you don't really need to attach your doctor's notes to the absence. And here at the bottom of the screen, you'll see your balance information for the absence type. In this example, we can see that there are plenty of leave credits available to cover the absence. There's over 500 of them. So you can take a look down here to check out your balance information, even before clicking Forecast to get a better idea of where exactly you stand in terms of leave credits. And once you're ready, you can click Submit to submit your absence for approval. You'll click Yes to confirm that you want to submit the absence. And then you'll see this Submitted Successfully banner here up top. You'll also get an email indicating the absence was submitted, and your manager will get an email letting them know that they have an absence to approve. Now, if you don't have enough leave credits to cover an absence, you will need to go through the dock process. First, you'll need to coordinate with your department timekeeper to submit a dock notice form in Adobe Experience Manager. In some departments, the timekeeper submits the dock notice form, while in other departments, the employee submits the dock notice form for themselves. Your timekeeper should be able to tell you what the practice is in your area. Second, you'll also need to enter the dock time as an absence in CHRS by the 17th of the month. As mentioned earlier, any docks that occur after the 17th of the month should be reported directly to your timekeeper and payroll services each day, and then payroll will provide guidance on how to proceed. Docs are also reported through the request absence page. So let's start that up again. In this example, I will be selecting doc as the absence name. And then I'll enter a doc for January 16th. It's just one day, so it's fine that the begin and the end date are the same. And because my time base is 0.2 FTEs, I'll select partial days. And then enter the duration as 1.6 hours. Forecasting is not necessary for a doc because you are not using any leave credits for this. So you won't see the forecast button or balance information if you're entering doc time. You will still have the option to enter a comment or attach a file. And once you have put in all of the information, you click submit to submit the doc. You'll get the same prompt. You will confirm that you want to submit it. And like with other absences, you'll see that banner and you'll get an email confirmation that the doc was submitted. Now let's look at how to report that you had no absences for the month. You may recall from earlier that this is under the CSU report no leave taken page. No leave taken is often abbreviated as NLT. So if you see NLT in CHRS or if someone mentions NLT, please know that they are referring to no leave taken. Similar to absences, if you have multiple positions, you will need to select which position you're reporting for. In this example, I'm going to place a check next to this top position for department ID 10050, which I know to be the chemistry department. If you have multiple lecturer appointments, it may be more challenging to identify which position is which in the no leave taken page because it's pulling the department ID number instead of the department name and the supervisor ID number as opposed to their name. So you can check with your department timekeeper or coordinator for assistance if you're not sure what your department ID is and you don't know which one to select. Keep in mind that if you have multiple positions, you will need to report no leave taken or absences for both positions every month. For my example here, let's say this person was out sick on a Wednesday, which is when their chemistry class is scheduled, but then they come back on Thursday to teach their biology class. They would report an absence for their chemistry lecturer position if they missed that entire day, but they would not need to submit an absence for the biology lecturer position because they didn't miss any scheduled work days for biology. So let's make our selection here. You'll want to check the month and make sure that it's the one you want to report for. Generally, the system pulls the current month and appropriate pay period dates, but it's always best to check. I'm not in the real system right now. I'm in a test instance, and it is stuck in time. It seems to believe that we are in summer of 2023. So for this person, we see down here, there's a message saying essentially, you do not work during this time. You're not teaching any summer classes. You do not need to report absences. And we can see the submit button is grayed out as well. So they couldn't submit anything even if they wanted to. But I do want to show you how this works. So I'm going to adjust the dates here. And I'm going to pretend that it is October 2023. So I select that and it populates the dates for the October 2023 pay period. Again, usually you would not need to make adjustments to these fields, but you will want to double check them just to make sure. And then once you have the correct pay dates there, you can go on and click submit. And there we go, submit confirmation. You may have noticed that there was no prompt asking if you were sure. There was no additional confirmation step beforehand. It just went straight into submission. So do make sure that you actually have not taken any leave, you do not anticipate any leave before you submit this. If you do submit an NLT entry by mistake, your supervisor can cancel that. Yes, your supervisor will have to cancel that because you yourself will not be able to. So do make sure that you submit this after you have worked all of your scheduled days for the month. And with this, you will also get an email confirmation, and your manager will also get an email letting them know that your no leave taken entry is ready for approval. Then here you can see it is pending approval by this supervisor right here. And then usually with no leave taken, right here. So we're not able to see it because this person does not have any absences that were submitted. But if, let's say they submitted absences for the October 2023 pay period, then you would see a table down here listing out those absences. And that would be a signal to let you know, hey, absences were submitted, so you should not be submitting no leave taken because leave was obviously taken. It's right down here. And that concludes our demonstration.